A campfire doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. For some, it's warmth and comfort. For us, it was where the darkness began. For years, stories have spread across America's forests. People who vanished without a trace, whispers no one could explain, shadows that moved on their own, footsteps that never returned. Those who disappeared into the fog at Harlow, the voices calling names in the night, the shifting silence of Blackwater. These stories may seem far apart, but they all share one truth. When night falls, no forest leaves you truly alone. Now, we bring together 3 different nights, 3 campfires, 3 encounters that should have never happened. Before the fire goes out, there are things you need to hear. If you're ready, we begin. That summer, I went camping deep in the woods with my 2 college friends, Jason and Dylan. We were all tired of the noise of the city, and we thought a few days of silence would do us good. The first thing I noticed while setting up our tents was the silence. There were no insects buzzing, no rustling leaves. It felt like the entire forest was watching us, holding its breath, but I kept that thought to myself. When night fell, we sat around the fire, roasting marshmallows and joking around. Dylan was tossing in another log when he suddenly froze. His eyes shifted toward the bushes. I followed his gaze, and that's when I saw them too. 2 glowing eyes staring at us from the darkness. I could see first, I thought it was a deer. But the eyes were too high off the ground, and they didn't move. Jason, trying to mask the tension, called out, "Hey, want to join us?" The eyes slowly faded back into the dark. Not a single branch snapped, not a single leaf moved. Jason's joke fell flat. We all went quiet for a moment, then forced out a laugh. Pretending we hadn't seen anything felt easier. Still, a knot of unease twisted in my stomach. By midnight, we put out the fire and retreated to our tents. Jason and Dylan shared one, and I stayed alone in the other. Lying there, I tried to fall asleep, but every little sound pierced the silence. The forest was still unnervingly quiet, so even the faintest noise carried sharp and clear. And then I heard it, the snap of dry branches. Slow, heavy footsteps, as if someone was wandering around the campsite. I held my breath. The thin fabric of the tent kept me from seeing clearly, but I caught the shadow. A tall, lean figure was moving slowly across the dim glow of the dying fire. Just as I was about to call out to my friends, the footsteps stopped. The shadow stood still, right in front of my tent. For what felt like minutes, it didn't move. Then, inch by inch, it backed away. From Jason and Dylan's tent came a soft, nervous chuckle. That's when I realized they were awake too. But none of us said a word. It was as if we all swallowed the same fear at once, burying it deep inside. I didn't sleep a single second that night. Even with my eyes shut, I kept seeing that tall shadow in front of my tent. When the first light of dawn crept through the trees, I finally felt a little relief. In the daylight, the forest seemed less threatening. We went for a hike later that day. Jason kept cracking jokes, Dylan snapped pictures, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. Every time I turned around, I swore I'd catch someone watching us. When I finally mentioned it, they laughed it off. "You've been watching too many horror movies," they said. Maybe they were right, or maybe they were just trying to convince themselves. That night, the wind picked up. The trees groaned and swayed as we sat around the fire. For a moment, everything went completely still. And in that silence, I heard it clear and close. A whisper. It said my name, Mark. Every hair on my body stood on end. I spun around, but Jason and Dylan were arguing about something, not even looking at me. It hadn't come from them. No, it had come from the dark. Something out there was calling me. For the first time, I wanted to leave. I wanted to pack up and go home. But I couldn't get the words out, because deep down, some part of me knew it wasn't finished with us yet. After that whisper, nothing felt the same. Jason kept laughing and making dumb jokes. Dylan brushed it off like I was just being paranoid. But I could see it, the same fear hiding behind their eyes. They knew something was out there too. By midnight, we crawled back into our tents. I was exhausted, but there was no way I could really sleep. The silence pressed in all around me. That's when I heard it, the slow rasp of a zipper being pulled. Someone outside was opening my tent. I froze. The zipper crept halfway down, and a face appeared in the gap. Two glowing eyes stared in at me, the same eyes I'd seen in the woods. Only now, they were inches away. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. My throat locked up. Then, from Jason and Dylan's tent, a sudden scream tore through the night. They had seen it too, but in the same instant, the face outside my tent was gone. No footsteps, no sound of retreating, just gone. We spent the rest of the night huddled around the fire, too afraid to go back inside. The flames flickered weakly as we listened. All night long, steady footsteps circled our camp, round and round. But no matter how hard we looked, nothing was there. By morning, we'd made up our minds. We were leaving. None of us said it out loud, but the decision was clear in our eyes. We packed our tents in silence and headed for the car. That's when Dylan noticed something by the bushes. On the ground, half sunk in the mud, were footprints. They were long, impossibly long, too wide, too stretched out to belong to any person. We didn't talk about it. We just got in the car and drove. But a few miles down the road, I couldn't help myself. I looked back, and there it was. At the edge of the trees, standing perfectly still in the shadows, was a tall figure, watching us leave. That's when I realized it hadn't stayed behind. It was following. Weeks passed, and I tried to forget, tried to pretend it was just the woods playing tricks on me. But one night in my room, I felt it again, that crushing silence. The same one from the campsite. And in the corner, just beyond the edge of the darkness, two glowing eyes appeared. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then came the whisper, clear this time, right beside my ear. I'm still here. My name is Caleb Mercer. This weekend, Luke and I escaped to the Umpqua National Forest in Oregon. We wanted silence, a place away from the city. The cabin we rented was old, but it had a massive steam machine meant to heat the sauna. At exactly 10:40 p.m., we turned it on. At first, it was just thick steam. Breathing became heavy, and a cold weight pressed on my chest. Then a low hum began, almost a whisper. Go back. Luke laughed it off, but I shivered. The steam grew even denser. Luke was a step away, but his form looked blurry, shadow-like. I reached out, but I couldn't touch him. Luke, are you close? I asked. No reply. It felt like the floor was swallowing me. My footsteps made no sound. The cabin was empty and silent, but there was a presence focused on me. Then I saw it. From the fog, a tall, thin silhouette appeared. Its head tilted, watching me. I thought it was Luke, but it wasn't. I blinked, and the figure vanished. At the same moment, Luke was gone too. My heart raced, and it felt impossible to breathe. The cabin was still, but some kind of movement lingered, aware of me. Every breath sent chills down my spine. I moved cautiously through the fog-filled cabin, the silhouette always seeming just out of reach, always watching. That night was the beginning of a nightmare. My missing friend, and a presence I couldn't see yet could feel, tracing my every step. A voice inside me whispered, "This is only the beginning." The next morning, I woke in a cold sweat. Luke was still missing, and the fog from the steam machine had left a damp chill in the cabin. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he had wandered off into the forest. But deep down, I knew this wasn't normal. I decided to check the machine. It stood in the corner, silent, but the metal panels were still warm. As I approached, I noticed something strange. The condensation on the walls wasn't just fog. It formed patterns almost like shapes, twisting and writhing. My heart thumped violently. I stepped back. Then I heard it, a faint scraping like something moving inside the machine. My breath caught. I reached for the control lever, my hand shaking. A hiss of cold air erupted, and the cabin seemed to stretch, shadows twisting along the walls. I called out, "Luke." No response, only the eerie hum that had started the previous night. The fog thickened, curling around me like fingers. I thought I saw a shadow in the corner, a human shape, but when I blinked, it was gone. Suddenly, a whisper echoed, soft yet urgent. "Caleb, turn around." I froze. There was no one behind me, only the fog. The voice came again, closer this time. I could feel it brushing against my neck, the air vibrating with its presence. Panic set in. I ran to the door, but the cabin seemed larger than before, the walls bending as if the forest itself was shifting. Outside, the trees were still, silent, but I felt eyes on me. Someone, or something, was in the forest, waiting. I realized then, the steam machine wasn't just a sauna heater. It was a portal, a doorway, and whatever had entered our cabin was still here in the fog, watching, waiting, and patient. Even as the sun slowly rose on the horizon, the cabin felt frozen. Light didn't seem to reach inside. Luke was still missing. I wanted to step outside into the forest, but my legs trembled. The ground looked almost alive. The trees rustled, and branches seemed to bend on their own. My heart pounded as if it wanted to burst from my chest. I returned to the room with the steam machine. The fog was still thick, chilling me to the bone. I touched the machine's metal surface. It was ice cold. Suddenly, a movement appeared in the mist. At first, I thought it was Luke, but this was different. Taller, thinner, and more unnatural. Its head was tilted, silently watching me. "Luke, where are you?" I shouted, my voice trembling, echoing around the cabin. No answer, but something whispered in the fog. "You're here." I felt its cold breath on my neck. I stepped back and tripped over something. As I fell, a cold substance touched my hand, like blood, but not quite a mix of mud and rust, unnatural. My heart raced uncontrollably. The fog moved in waves, and the shadows twisted and reshaped themselves. With every step I took, the shadow mirrored me. It was measuring my fear. For a moment, Luke's silhouette appeared near the cabin door. I tried to run, but the figure had no head, no face, just a void, a deep darkness. "Luke!" I screamed, but still no reply. The fog thickened, making the room feel enormous. The steam machine now emitted a chorus of howls, whispers, and groans. I rubbed my eyes, but the figure had moved even closer. I reached out my hand, but it touched nothing. Then an icy gust swept down from the ceiling. The shadows danced, and the walls seemed to bend. I realized this was not just a machine, it was a gateway, and whatever emerged from it had taken Luke. My only choice left: step into the mist and face it. The fog wrapped around my legs, swallowing each step I took. Luke's voice echoed from somewhere in the distance. "Caleb, I'm here." But when I blinked, there was nothing. Silence pressed in from all sides. My breath was shallow, my heart pounding as if it would burst from my chest. Shadows moved around me, but I couldn't tell which was Luke and which was a trick of the fog. Every step heightened my anxiety. Footsteps, rustling leaves, and the dense, almost tangible silence amplified my dread. For a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Luke's silhouette, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. The fog thickened with every passing second, bending space and time around me. My heart raced, and my mind teetered on the edge of panic. Then, suddenly, I heard his voice clear and urgent. "I'm here, Caleb." I could hardly believe my eyes. As the fog slowly lifted, I saw Luke standing just outside the cabin. He was covered in dirt and leaves, his face etched with fear and disbelief, but he was alive. I ran toward him, relief flooding through me, and felt the tension of the past hours melt away in his embrace. "What happened? Where were you?" I asked. Luke shivered and shook his head. "The fog, it swallowed me, but I made it out," he stammered. In that moment, I realized the forest, the mist, and the steam machine weren't just tricks of the mind. They were part of a dark boundary where the lost and the shadows lingered. Yet Luke had emerged unharmed. We could finally breathe again. The fog still swirled around the trees, heavy and ominous, but now we had control, or at least some semblance of it. The fear remained, a subtle reminder that somewhere in the mist, unseen forces waited. But for now, we were together, and that was enough. My name is Daniel, and this is the first time I'm telling what really happened that night. There were 4 of us, me, my younger brother Evan, and our friends Mira and Josh. It was our college break, and we wanted a quiet escape from the city. 3 days of camping, no phones, no stress. Harlow Campground was old even back then. 1970s picnic tables, rusting grill pits, an abandoned wooden office with broken windows. But we loved that vibe. The first evening was normal. We lit a fire, played music, and roasted marshmallows. But around 11:30 p.m., the air changed suddenly. There was no river nearby, yet a cold fog began to rise from the forest floor. Like the ground was exhaling, we huddled closer to the fire, but the flames didn't warm us. The fog grew thicker until the fire's orange glow turned dull and washed out. Josh joked, "If someone wandered off right now, we wouldn't even notice." It wasn't funny. Something moved inside the fog. Not all of us heard it. Only Evan. "Did you hear that?" He whispered. We said no. He swallowed hard. "Someone said my name." Right behind me, there was no wind, no animals, no sound at all. Just fog and the wrong kind of silence. Even the shadows around the fire behaved strangely. They fell in the wrong direction, bending toward the forest instead of away from the flames at 12:10 a.m. Mira went to the car to grab water. Her flashlight was on. We could hear her footsteps, then nothing. "Mira," we called. And no answer, and no light. Josh tried to run after her, but Evan grabbed his arm. "Don't. The fog, it's moving." And it was slowly shifting, almost crawling toward where she went. Mira never came back, and no shout, no struggle, just that cold, breathing fog. And the nightmare didn't end there, because on the second night, the three of us left behind heard the same voice. I didn't sleep after Mira vanished. None of us did. We stayed around the fire until morning, watching the fog crawl between the trees like something alive. When sunlight finally broke through, the fog retreated fast, almost afraid of the light. We searched for Mira for hours. Her footprints stopped 10 feet from the car, like she'd simply lifted off the ground. Josh started panicking, pacing, yelling her name into the trees. Evan, though, he kept glancing at the woods like he expected someone to step out. "It said her name too," he whispered once. I pretended not to hear. By nightfall, we were exhausted and terrified. We talked about packing up and leaving, but the closest town was almost 2 hours away, and none of us wanted to drive those roads in the dark. So we made a bigger fire, a taller one, a barrier, Evan called it. But the moment the last bit of daylight disappeared, the fog returned. Faster this time, heavier, swallowing the ground in a slow wave. This fog wasn't natural. I know what natural fog looks like. This one climbed trees. It moved around objects. It avoided the fire like it knew what flames were. Josh stood up, gripping a lantern. "I'm not staying here. We go now." He took 2 steps toward the trailhead, then froze, not like someone hesitating, like someone hitting an invisible wall. His lantern flickered violently. The fog curled around his legs, creeping upward like hands pulling him into chest-high water. He screamed and dropped the lantern, falling backward onto the dirt. Evan and I rushed toward him, but the fog recoiled from us, slithering back toward the tree line. Josh was pale white. His lips trembled. Something whispered in my ear. He said shakily, "What?" I asked. He swallowed, eyes wide with a terror I had never seen in him before. It said, "You're next." A sudden crack echoed from deeper in the woods, like a branch snapping under a heavy weight. Then another, and another. Whatever was in that fog, it wasn't hiding anymore. It was circling us. And Evan, he started hearing his name again. That night, we piled more wood onto the fire, but the heat didn't matter. It felt like the warmth slid right off the mist, never reaching us. Josh wasn't talking anymore. He just stared at the flames. Evan kept glancing over his shoulder like he expected someone to be standing there. "Someone's out here," he whispered. The tremble in his voice made my stomach tighten. Minutes passed, and the forest fell into an unnatural silence. No crickets, no wind, nothing. Then, out of nowhere, footsteps. Soft, slow, human-like footsteps, but with no rhythm. They got closer, then faded back, then came closer again. Something was circling us, but there was no shadow, no shape, just movement. Evan pointed toward the back of the tents. There, something just moved. I looked and the mist shifted, forming a dark wave between the trees. Humanoid, but wrong. The proportions were distorted. where an arm should have been, the fog curled in on itself. In the head, there was no head, just a hollow void absorbing the firelight. Josh shot to his feet. "Mira? Mira!" he shouted. The figure jerked backward and vanished into the trees like it had been pulled. The footsteps returned. Faster, more than now. 3 or 4, circling. Evan covered his ears. It'd say my name over and over. The fire suddenly shrank like something invisible pressed it down. The darkness felt heavier, thicker, and then, from just beyond the campsite, a scream. Human, but not Myra's. The scream split the forest in half. We all jumped to our feet at the same time. The cold of the night pierced straight through my bones. Josh shouted Myra's name, voice shaking, but there was no answer. Only fog and a deep, muffled hum beneath it. Evan turned on his flashlight, but the beam collapsed inside the thick mist. We took a few steps forward and immediately understood. The fog was moving. Not with the wind. It moved as if it had a consciousness, curling and shifting like it was watching us. Then the footsteps returned. Slower this time, heavier, and so close we could feel them. A shadow stepped out from the bushes. It walked, but its feet didn't fully touch the ground. It had a body, yet where a head should have been, there was only a dense, light-absorbing void. No eyes, no face, just emptiness. Josh almost ran forward, but the shadow froze suddenly, as if something held it in place. Then the fog rolled backward in a slow wave, and behind the shadow, a familiar silhouette began to appear. "Mira," I whispered. At that moment, Evan's flashlight flickered, the fog thinned, and Mira stepped out. Her knees were covered in dirt, scratches lined her face, and her eyes were wide with shock. "Something pulled me," she gasped. Inside the forest. Wasn't real. It wasn't our world. Behind her, the shadow dissolved completely, as if it had never existed. We wrapped our arms around her. The campfire rose again, glowing warm and alive. But all of us knew the forest was still watching, and none of us would ever be able to explain what truly happened that night.